Greetings, investigators, and welcome back to our video podcast, Into the Darkness, where my friends and I play the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. I'm your host, Tom Rayleigh. The trick to not being discovered until it's too late is to become part of the expected surroundings. Stealth is more of the art of blending in with the background than sneaking through dark shadows. Our campaign is Horror on the Orient Express, and this at last is episode 80. I'm your game master, and Jeff Wilkins will be giving our recap. So, the train's moving onwards. We're heading into Sofia, Bulgaria. Let's begin our journey into the darkness. Jeff?
Thanks, Tom. Our last episode, our group is on board the Orient Express, and it's around 3 a.m. when the train is arriving in Svelingrad for a scheduled stop. Based off the intercepted telegram that Dr. Dawkins obtained, we believe that Salim Makriat has plans to meet someone here. We've all awoken to make an attempt to watch the platform to see who is getting onto the train. Upon awaking Eldridge and Dr. Keith, we have another conversation about what we know and what we don't know about the Sedevkar simulacrum. Eldridge brings up many interesting points, as do the others. We think that maybe the simulacrum is mainly just an armor of some kind that grants the wearer some sort of immortality, and yet Eldridge points out that Fenlek has never worn the armor. The train pulls to a stop, and we hear someone yelling for help. Frank and Dr. Keith wait in the salon to see if to watch the platform, while Eldridge and Dr. Dawkins go to investigate the yelling. It turns out it was Luigi Martinelli, and he's been stabbed. He was sleeping in Frank's lower bunk, and someone came into the cabin in the night and stabbed him. We assume that it was meant for Frank. Dr. Dawkins attends to his wounds. The police have also arrived and are investigating. Dr. Keith and Frank see two men getting into a second-class cab a few cars down. A few policemen also get on, and they were more like border guards. One man ran off the train as we arrived to report the crime. Eldridge is looking for clues about who might have stabbed Luigi, but he's not finding anything. Luigi has been removed from the train. The police have finished their investigation, and at about 4:35 a.m., the train leaves the platform. Dr. Dawkins is able to move his baggage into Frank's room, and this way we each feel a little bit safer. Dr. Dawkins and Frank get some sleep before breakfast is served, while Eldridge and Keith are staying awake now in the salon car. As they're looking out the window, they see several large wolves running along next to the train. As the sun rises, the wolves peel away. We overhear someone in the personnel talking that it seems one of the conductors has gone missing. At breakfast, Eldridge talks with Jack and plants a few seeds in his mind about some possible newspaper headlines. But other than that, nothing much else happens, and we're about to arrive at our next stop in Sofia. Brings us up to date.
All right. So now, are you all together for breakfast?
Yes.
Okay. I was thinking about this earlier, and I think it might be reasonable for me to suggest this, but my guess is your paranoia is probably pretty high. There are going to be minor stops all along the way. I'm thinking that if any one of you is available at any given moment, you've got your eyes kind of looking out the windows, to see if you see people getting on the train, off the train. You're keeping track of things at this point. So the train pulls in to Sofia, and it's going to be in Sofia. It pulls into Sofia at 11:15 a.m. It's going to leave at 11:50. So it's about 30 minutes, 35 minutes or so. It's going to be in Sofia. You notice almost immediately somebody leaves the train and runs to the the telegraph office. Do a spot hidden for me. Whoever's looking out the window, you can designate somebody or. They're all so quiet.
I didn't pass. I got a 90.
Yes, I did pass. 58 out of 65.
Okay. From the clothing, you're pretty sure that it's Jack Gatling.
Okay. He's one of the ones that we pretty much have crossed off the lists of suspects.
Makes sense as well because he's a journalist.
I don't think we did. I'm always suspicious, you know. Particularly, remember our interpreter.
Yes.
In Constantinople. So yeah, I don't think we crossed him off the list.
Okay.
But
I think Eldridge just crossed them off.
Well, Eldridge can. He has the comfort of doing that.
Within just a matter of 30 seconds or so, you also notice quite a few other people getting off the train just to stretch their legs and walk about. You have been cramped up on the train for a day and a half.
I think what made the last stop extraordinary, I guess, is that we actually had that clue where he was supposedly meeting somebody. So it's going to be okay. Never mind. Forget what I was saying.
Do an idea roll, because I want to bring something up that we talked about last time.
Yeah, 25.
You heard earlier that the man in charge of the Calais car is the man who is missing. He was replaced. You recall? That was Sukard. He was the guy who was in charge of your cabin. And he's the man who is now missing. He's also the man that took your tickets.
What's his name? Sukard?
Emile Sukar.
When
French.
you say took our tickets,
Yes, when you were getting on the train.
he just took them and stamped them and gave them back to us, didn't he? He didn't hang on to them.
Correct.
So that would be really annoying.
In the last episode around that time, I was given the name of Oswaldo Volk. Is he the new person? Sorry, I'm getting... So Emile...
Yes.
Emile
Oswaldo
disappeared? He was the one that disappeared?
Correct.
Yeah.
Oswaldo's the replacement.
The replacement of Emile. Okay.
He was working at another part on the train, and they've just posted in there because they need somebody to be in charge of your car. So I just wanted to make sure you understood that.
And Sophia is where we had the run-in with the
Vampires.
the vampire. Yes. We arrive in daylight, don't we?
Yeah, we have.
Yes. 11:15. You arrive in the morning.
Okay.
Everybody still have their garlic?
Oh yes.
Frank does.
Yeah.
Do any of you want to get off the train?
I was going to put this idea out there. Perhaps while everybody is out of the train, perhaps we can do a bit of looking around to see if we can actually find the simulacrum. I think we've concluded that he couldn't be wearing it, that he has it off. So we can find the place where he stashed it. Perhaps we can or perhaps we can actually hide it away from him. I don't know if he still needs it to complete the ritual.
Well, how would you like to go about that? Of course, the staff is still on the train, so where would you like to look?
We could say that we're just checking on our luggage or something.
Okay.
I mean, what do you guys think?
Well, if we remember Fenelic, he was stored. Something of that size would need to be stored, and Fenelic was stored with all the other large objects, and that was like, what, Tom, like 6 cars worth of stuff that we had to like individually go through.
Right.
I don't know if we have time to do that.
Well, realize too that you guys had the simulacrum stored in a trunk. So it doesn't necessarily have to be a big trunk that it's stored in.
Yes,
so it can be
not going to be as obvious as a.
Well, here's a question.
As a coffin.
When we found our rooms ransacked, were the trunks that we had the pieces in, were they taken away or were they still there and just empty?
I'm sorry, ask that again.
When we when we discovered that our rooms were ransacked back in Constantinople,
Okay.
were the trunks that we had the pieces in, were they still there and just empty, or were they gone completely?
The trunks that you had been stored in the vault of the hotel, and they were gone. Along with the simulacrum and the scrolls. Your rooms were ransacked for the scrolls, probably, or the scroll that you had.
Well, perhaps, I mean, if we can recognize our own luggage containers, we can probably pinpoint it that way.
Yeah, we'd sort out specifically reinforced luggage, hadn't we? That it's quite noticeable.
Where would we look though? Is that something they would put? What is it called? The forlorn?
The foregone?
Foregone?
It would be there.
Can I go back real quick? When you said that I spotted Jack Gatling leaving the train, was he like?
Yes.
What was his? Was he running? Did it look like he was fleeing? Was he just getting a cup of coffee?
He looks like he was running to the telegraph office.
He was running.
I mean, not like he was being chased, but getting there quickly.
Now,
You only got 30 minutes.
Remember, everyone, that I told Jack that I have the possibility of just like making his career.
Yeah.
He may be telegramming his magazine, his editor. He could be telling someone, I've got a really big story. So him running away, I believe that I've narrowed him down. In fact, I'm making a list now and I'm going through, because in the last episode, me and Dr. Keith discussed that we kind of narrowed down our suspect list. I don't know if you remember that, Dr. Keith.
Yes, we did. Yes,
But we began narrowing down, which brings me to something that I thought about over the kind of break that we had. All right, I'm sick. I feel as we have sort of a situation where it's like, all right, and I think that, in my opinion, we should maybe approach everyone on the our trip, because, as Tom said, the Calais car will eventually be split off, and it'll just be everyone going to London who's on the train at that point. And I think at that point, we need to get everyone together and say, okay, someone here is trying to kill another human being. Which one of us is it? Turn to everybody that someone is doing something and kind of narrow down the suspect list. Just make it known, make it apparent towards the end. Because at this point, everyone's.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say that my 3 principal suspects at the moment are the 3 people in single rooms.
And And that's something that I'm going through now. I'm writing down everyone in the rooms. I'm eliminating people so that way later throughout this we can kind of discuss and narrow down our suspect list, because I don't think it's Jack. Was that Makriot killed someone on the train, dumped their body, and then took their form, because that's why we're not seeing the train conductor, because he was, or the person who was in charge of our car. He was originally that person. He caught on to that. He had to dispose of his old appearance to get a new appearance. There can't be a copy walking around, so he has to kill that person, throw them off the train. So, and if what I heard was correct, something was thrown off the train. I think it was a body. Jack could not have been that body. I was in his room. Elizabeth was in her room.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not whoever was with Elizabeth. Luigi was stabbed, so it couldn't have been him. He was taken off the train. So it's just
Dawkins, I believe, wasn't in the room with Sir Robert Harrow when that happened.
True.
So I'd have Sir Robert Harrow as a kind of tier 2 suspect, but my three main ones would be Margrave, La Donna Margherita Delgada, and Kiyoshi Nakamura.
Yeah, and we just need bless you. We just need a way to narrow down our suspect list, kind of out of character to everyone, all of the other players. Have you played the game Werewolf?
Yes.
Okay.
I enjoy the game very much.
Okay. Excluding Tom, does anybody else know how to play the game? What the game is?
I've only just heard of it, so I have a rough idea.
So the game is essentially The Thing. Okay? Someone in the room is a werewolf. And each night, the werewolf, when everyone's asleep, you close your eyes, the werewolf wakes up and picks one person who dies. And then the game just keeps going from there and there until the werewolf. So think of it like that.
And the other people have to figure out who the werewolf is.
Yeah.
Oh, I know it, but I know it under the name of Murder in the Dark.
Yeah.
Same idea.
Same idea. And this is that situation. Is all we need to do is just systematically narrow down our suspects.
I don't want to complicate things even more, but what I was thinking is that one of these people might also be working alongside of our guy. So I still want to be cautious of everyone here. I don't want to sit back and I don't want to sit back and just write them off and say, hey, these guys are not part of it. I want to more or less, even if we can kind of breathe a little easier, saying, okay, this isn't who we think it is, I still want to just approach that as they still might be involved some way, somehow.
Yeah.
It is a cult after all, isn't it?
Right.
I'm in the same boat. And there's nothing, like, I think we all agree at some point it was Emil. So,
yeah, it was Emil. It was 100% Emil, and Emil is now gone.
Right. So at that point, everybody in our car was innocent. So now it's a matter of, even though we might narrow it down, like we've cleared Jack pretty much at this point, but there's nothing that would say that Emil or whoever the next person, Jack could be the next person that he takes over. So,
now, but on the cult thing, I want to, because I brought this up in the last episode. Remember that it is not Makriot's goal to take control of the cult. In fact, the cult barely exists after the death of his father. Makriot just cares about getting the simulacrum, and he has that.
Well, it may barely exist, and he may not care about them, but he can still use them. They're still expendable to him. So, all I'm saying here is just approach with caution.
Yep.
I will give you one thing. If somebody makes a hard intelligence roll, good heart.
I have made an extreme.
Okay.
No, I didn't.
Considering
Normal.
the events that occurred a few days ago, there's no reason at all for Makriot to have anticipated anybody like you getting on the train. It should have been just a simple trip back to England with no complications whatsoever. You guys were locked up in a tower.
So he's very much playing it by ear, like some form of murderous jazz riff.
I picture Dr. Keith saying that in a very film noir.
With shadows half on her face.
Yeah, the rain hitting the window.
Some form of murderous jazz riff.
Just a little bit of tinkly light on her beard.
It's the morning, she'd still have curlers in her beard. At least I do until about 10 o'clock in the morning, but I'm assuming she would as well.
All right. So I asked a question. Were any of you going to get off the train while you're in Sofia?
Well, I kind of like Dr. Dawkins' idea of maybe seeing if we can find our chunks in the fourgon.
All right. Is that what you're going to do then?
One of us should stay in the salon though, and I will elect to do that, and I shall guard this bottle of brandy while I'm doing it.
Well, while you're in there, the rest of you head up towards the fourgon, but you very quickly learned that because of certain incidents that have been going on the train so far, the security is fairly high, and they don't want anybody, getting to their packages unless it's absolutely necessary. They would have to, rearrange things and find your cases and bring them to you and all that. And at this point, unless you're getting off in Sofia, it's really impractical.
All right, I'm not going to make a big deal or a fuss about it. So, once they tell us that, then
okay.
But
Doctor,
I will say that after that, I'm not going to go into far from the train, but I will go out and sort of get a breath of fresh air and look around.
Okay. We'll get back to the second thing. Dr. Elizabeth, you see Dr. Dawkins step off the train, and I don't know if your characters smoke or not, but you might. I don't know.
Yes. Elizabeth smokes a pipe.
So, Dr. Elizabeth, as you're sitting there in the salon, what the hell's his name? Lord Margrave. He comes in, and almost all of these people you have observed now for a day and a half. And Margrave's actions, he seems different. He's usually very smooth, high cultured. But he comes in, he seems a little, I don't know. I'd say that he doesn't seem as calm and composed as he normally is. And he walks over to the bar and immediately orders a stiff drink of some sort. And just sits there leaning on the bar, and he actually knocks it back.
I'm going to just discreetly keep an eye on him for the moment.
Well, actually, I think you should go and talk with him. Margrave was one of the prime suspects of your mine list, and with him seeming different, that puts him at the top.
Eldridge is yelling that at you from the front.
Oh, right. No. Yes, you're right. You are quite right. I had him confused with Henri Matthew.
No. I'm just reminding you.
No, right. Yes. A little voice in the back of my head.
Sounds sick. It's got a cold.
Everybody's got colds except me. Or I think Jeff has a cold.
In that case, yes, I'm going to. I believe the correct term would be sashay over to the bar.
All right.
I will order something which takes a while to make. A white lady, that takes a while to make, doesn't it?
Okay.
The egg and things.
So you're standing there, and he seems, I guess you could say, like a little agitated. As if he's upset about something. But he doesn't say anything to you.
Pardon me, do you have any idea how long we'll be here? What the train is?
I believe that we're going to be leaving in about 15 minutes. Tell me something, ma'am. Have you ever been married?
Me? No. I've never had that particular pleasure.
Have you ever had an affaire de coeur?
Well, something comparable, yes.
Well, the one thing I've never been able to figure out is your gender. And he knocks back another drink. And he says, "Excuse me." And he gets up and he walks out of the room rather abruptly.
Well, I never. He's hardly a charismatic gentleman, is he?
Is that a crack on you?
Why, I order. Well, in that case, I'll take my white lady. I should order the brandy Alexander. I'll take my white lady, and I will return to my table.
All right. Dr. Dawkins, you have, from the time when you stepped out of the train car, you have about 20 minutes. It's cold, it's chilly, there's snow on the ground. This is actually a rather lovely part of the city, so you can see spires of churches and stuff in the distance, and quaint buildings. It's a big city, so it's a modern city by comparison. But there's trees planted around and places, and of course the train station's there. But you can walk up and down the train, the platform, and as you are nearing the end of the platform and about to turn back around, you hear steps on the platform coming up behind you. Do a luck roll.
No. I got a 92.
Oof. Well, just as you hear this, you turn just in time to see a rather second-class individual coming up, and he's got a knife in his hand. And just as you turn, he's going to attempt to stab you. And he misses. You're lucky. You're luckier than your luck roll. He goes to stab you, but he kind of gets caught on your coat. What would you like to do?
I'd like to rearrange his face with my medical equipment.
Okay.
But no, I will. I will, I guess, get into more or less like a defensive posture. Next time he attacks, I want to try to.
Well, he's like right up on you. So
okay. So then I'm going to try to, I guess, grapple his arm while I will yell out loud, "I'm being attacked!"
All right.
And getting past that, I got a 53 out of 27.
Okay, so you start stumbling around with him on the platform. He also doesn't land a hit.
Can I, from my vantage point in the salon, can I hear Dr. Dawkins?
Yes, you hear it, and in fact, now you were sort of looking, towards the platform, and Dr. Dawkins had just walked past you, and he's down here. But when you hear it, you look back and you see he's struggling with somebody.
Well, I'm gonna rush out.
A few other people on the platform see what's going on, and a couple of gentlemen, start heading towards Dr. Dawkins to assist, as gentlemen would. This guy's going to try to stab you again. What would you like to do to counter? You can attack or dodge.
I'm going to try to dodge. Because my dodge is just as bad as my attack, so. Ooh, but I got a 6.
Okay. He thrusts at you, and as he does, you can tell that his knife has like slashed into the sleeve of your coat, and it's scratched your skin. But at the same time, you sort of twist out of the way, and give me a luck roll. And if you make it,
I made that one.
Okay, 30. You throw him off the end of the platform. Okay, so in a rather eloquent move, you spin and throw him, and he just goes off the end of the platform, but he's cut your arm. The other gentlemen who are on the platform come running up, and they grab you to keep you from falling off the platform. And as you're all sort of looking down at the guy, he scrambles off into the bushes and runs away.
All right.
I say, what's happened, sir? You've been attacked by a brigand.
Yeah, some ruffian. But that was, I had to demonstrate my good British martial arts.
I say, rather. You're 99% sure that this is one of the people that got on the train.
Okay.
Earlier.
Okay. He got on the train from here.
No, he's one of the people that got on that you were pretty sure that Makriot had asked for.
Okay. I'm going to excuse myself, and then I'm going to head back to my room. I'm going to look at my scratch.
I guess I should also say that he was probably Turkish. Yeah, that makes sense.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to go back to your room. What are the rest of you have now rejoined? Have you? I assume you've rejoined Dr. Elizabeth, and she's probably told you what she's seeing out the window. So.
Indeed, I think the man was some sort of free-thinking anarchist or some such.
Turkish man with a knife.
Yes, yes.
I think that screams agent of Makriot.
It certainly does, especially if it's one of the chaps who got on the train.
Question is he the man who stabbed Luigi? Because if around the same time everyone was coming on board, Luigi got stabbed.
Luigi was stabbed before the stop where you saw the people get on.
I'm just kidding. We have eliminated that, which means that Makriat stabbed them.
Yeah.
That also makes sense because Makriot would have probably had a key to your cabins.
Which means he still has a key.
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Okay. Well, I've begun taking notes of everything.
You've just now begun taking notes.
Well, I had a list of possible suspects, but now I'm expanding that, basing them into tiers. My top three right now are Lord Margrave, LaDonna, and then Nakamura. Those are my main focuses, with Amumu and Groening, and then Harrow as my second tier, because Harrow was alone when the body was dropped, and now he's alone in a room. Because Dawkins switched rooms to be with Frank, leaving Harrow alone in his room. So that's pretty suspect.
Well,
So, and then, go ahead.
Forgive me, Eldridge, because I don't think any of them are suspects at this point. You know what I mean?
Explain.
Well, we pretty much have figured out that Emil was Makriat.
But we also know that a body was dropped off the train after Emil was spotted.
Okay, I see what
It
you're
was
saying.
close. That was close enough that I heard it in my cabin, which means it had to be within our car, within the car above us, or the car below us.
So you're
pretty
thinking
sure
at
that
that
we're
point it was Emil then ditching. See, I thought that was Makriat ditching Emil's body.
No.
You're thinking it was him ditching one of the other bodies.
Yeah, I think that Emil was before the train even got rolling. I think. I don't think that he has that. All right, this is a theory that I've written down. I don't think that Makriat had a ticket. Because the train was basically sold out, and if he bought a ticket, he'd have to show credentials and everything like that. So I don't think that Makriat bought a ticket. I think that he took the role of a staff member to get on board the train undetected.
Okay.
And now he's assuming, so that was before the train even began. Now that Dawkins spotted Emil, he had to dump a new body, he had to assume a new role, and it's someone within our car, or a car above or below us. But I think it's someone in our car, because it's the surefire way of getting straight to London. Because everyone on this train, on this car, is going right to London. And as me and Keith discussed last episode, people in individual rooms are pretty suspect. And that was Lord Margrave, Madonna, Nakamura, and Harrow. And Luigi. But then Luigi was eliminated. He got stabbed, so he's gone. So that leaves four. Four people in a room when I heard a body drop. Now there also is how do you pronounce his name? It's Matthew and Emanuela.
Yeah.
I don't think that they're suspects. Here's why. They're a couple. If Makriat killed one of them, the other one would know.
I'd agree with that.
I've also written down that an agent of Makriat tries to kill Dawkins. Turkish man with knife. Does this mean resources are limited? Surprised him on this train ride. He had to call in help. Is this all the help that he could get? two Turkish guys and a knife.
Isn't Groening meant to have been? Well, didn't Jack say something about Groening having an affair with Emanuela?
I believe that was actually Lord Margrave, and that's why I'm thinking of crossing him off the top suspect list, because he seemed different. You then talked to him, and he said, "Have you ever an affair?" and blah, blah, blah. I think that he was slighted by Emanuela, and that disappointed him.
Yeah, I find it hard to believe that Macriart would draw attention to himself by turning up in the bar.
Well, not only that, but his personality was different. He was still talking about an affair and blah 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 women, and that seems kind of like him. I just think that he was slighted by Emanuela. I think that if pressed, either Emanuela or Margrave will say, "Yeah," and it did not happen. Now, the best way to not be seen is to just not say anything. Nakamura and Amumu have not said anything. They have not made their presence really known to us in any way, which makes Nakamura now the top of my list, replacing Lord Margrave. So that's just...
Let me add that all of these people on the list, everybody, you see them every time you have a meal, and they're in the room. Okay, because everybody eats in the same place. So whether you've had any interaction with them or not, that's you haven't had any interaction with Groening or Amumu Haddad. Don't forget Amumu.
Oh no, I did say that because Amumu hasn't really spoken.
Right, he seems to be to himself.
Yeah, much like Nakamura is to himself. That could be because they are foreigners, or because it's Macriat.
Let me ask you a question. This is GM correcting. The affair with Emanuela, how did you know about that? Did Gatling tell you?
Gatling told us that Margrave and Emanuela were having, that he was trying for an affair. Trying.
Okay. Let me correct you.
All right.
What Gatling would have told you is that he saw Emanuela coming out of, or was it one of you who saw this, coming out of Groening's cabin and going to the bathroom and then going back into her own.
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Okay. So it's not Margrave. It's Groening that she's having the affair with. He's hot. He's young.
Still though.
Well, wait, to continue.
Okay.
Margrave, though Margrave has one room and La Donna Margarita has another room, the rumor is that there's something going on there.
All right. So, but that just further narrows down my list to Amumu and Nakamura because, well, not really. In my head it does, but not in reality, because Emanuela and Groening, I mean, if they're together and they've been together on this trip, then much like Emanuela and Matthew, they would have known if one of their personalities changed drastically. Lord Margrave and LaDonna, it's now, but now it's possible that LaDonna was changed because it's possible that she rebuffed Margrave because she is in fact Macriat. She rebuffed him, or Macriat rebuffed him this is what is disappointing him, because he thought, oh, we're together, this is going well. She's now rebuffed him. He's confused and upset. And LaDonna was in her own room alone when the body dropped.
Let me interrupt for just a moment. Dr. Dawkins, the staff, especially the chief of the train, the chef de train, he is with you. He's like, oh my goodness, you were injured. I'm so sorry that you were attacked. Blah, blah, blah. But eventually they leave you alone. You obviously went back to your room to clean up. Okay.
Yeah, I'm particularly looking to see if I've been poisoned.
It doesn't look like there's any kind of poison.
There's
no particular redness or anything like that.
I will fix it up with my instrument.
Okay, that'll fix your body. It won't fix your clothes. But you've got other clothes.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to add that in there. I'm sorry. We can go back now to.
Okay. So, Makriot takes over LaDonna's body because why suspect a woman? Honestly, it's more common for people to assume the guilt of a man rather than the woman. So, takes over her. She is Makriot. Makriot is a man who probably doesn't want to sleep with Margrave. Rebuffs him. He is confused and upset. So I'm now I'm looking at not Nakamura, but LaDonna as my lead. She was already at the top of my list. She's just made it to the first spot.
I'm just imagining a little bit later on tonight, we're going to hear a story about Thomas in his bedroom, drugged out on NyQuil and cough medicine, with little pictures and red yarn strings going.
That's already in here. I've had dreams, man. You take NyQuil, and then you drink 3 beers, and then you start going.
Then it all makes sense.
Then it all makes sense. You get the bigger picture that way.
As you guys are sitting here discussing this, and you also have been apologized to, for people being attacked, one of your party being attacked on the platform. The train's ready to depart. So you've seen everybody get back on the train.
Tom, what can you tell me about Madonna? What do we already know? It's been a while since we've actually interacted with her. What do we know about her?
You know that she's a Spanish aristocrat. She's very pretty. Not really much more than that.
Has any of us talked to her?
Probably not. You guys have been hanging around with Gatling, and like any other aristocrat, especially one that might be sleeping with another aristocrat, they aren't going to talk to anybody who's associated with that man, who's just a tabloid reporter. There's definite prejudice against Gatling.
Okay.
On this train.
Well, I mean, yeah, he's a tabloid writer.
However, to add to that, if there's anybody who knows anything about anybody on this train, it's Jack Gatling.
Which is also true. But if we can't talk to LaDonna, maybe we can talk to Margrave. Just eliminate him as a suspect while also reinforcing LaDonna as a suspect. Because Keith's right. 4 people were alone in their rooms the night the body dropped. And to me, I don't think that Harrow would have done it. Because it should be pointed out that if it had been done in Dawkins' room, there would be blood. Let's remember that it requires him to literally put skin on him. requires him to murder someone if he doesn't need to wear their skin. It requires him to literally murder somebody, which would mean blood. And Dawkins didn't see blood in Harrow's room. So there's technically 3 suspects: Margrave, Donna, Nakamura, who have their own personal rooms, were alone that night. So I think that Keith's right. I think those are the 3. And in my opinion, LaDonna is top of the list, because if she all of a sudden is rebuffing Margrave, that doesn't make sense.
So what would you like to do? The
Have a
train
drink.
starts to go.
I'm going to drink some tea.
Well, I think I'm muted. No, I'm not.
No, you're not.
I think that that leaves us with La Donna Margarita and Kiyoshi Nakamura that we need to sound out.
Agreed. Well, now
The
there
fact
is
that
also...
I can't remember even seeing that woman around.
Neither do I. Now, I mean, there is also Groening, but the way that I was thinking of narrowing him out was speaking German to him. But I think that Makriat is well learned enough to speak, I think, the 3rd or 4th largest language in Europe at the time. It could be the 3rd. English, French, and then German. Maybe Italian's 3rd and German's 4th, but in 1920. But so that wouldn't work. But if Groening and Emanuela are together, then one of them would sense that, they're completely different. We would have a Margrave situation where they're a completely different person now. So I think that we can eliminate Groening. Amumu is too obvious.
No, I thought that.
Yeah, you thought the same thing. I think that's too obvious. Like, why would a Turkish man just appear as a Egyptian man? I think that he picked LaDonna because she was alone and she is a woman. So I agree. I think that we should kind of not so much grill, but kind of look at the circumstances behind LaDonna and Nakamura. Yeah, let's do that.
Let's lightly toast them.
Let's lightly toast them. Let's put them in the toaster and see what comes out.
Well, as the train settles into a steady speed, the first person other than you that enters the salon is Nakamura. He walks very precisely to the table that he tends to like to sit at. It's the last table. It's his back is to the wall so that he can observe the entire car. And he sits quietly and he turns and he's just got his head looking out the window. Expressionless.
Who would like to go talk to him? I've done a lot of talking, so I'll leave that up to one of you guys. No one? No one wants to go talk to him?
Who's in there with him?
Nobody's there with him.
No, where is this taking place? In the salon?
In the salon car, yeah.
Okay.
The waiter approaches him and asks him something, and he says something back. And A few minutes later, they bring him a glass of water. A bottle of water.
Ooh.
I can't think of any reason to approach.
Well, I would, but I'm concerned that a woman approaching a Japanese man on a train in the 1920s wouldn't really be the done thing, would it?
Yeah. I get that. I've got something. So I will approach, but I will sit at a table adjacent to his. And I do have a book. It's a manuscript from Arkham.
Okay.
So I'm just going to sit down and I'm just going to open up and I'm going to read about the top paragraph of the page I'm open to.
Okay.
I'm going to assume that he doesn't do anything, that he's just kind of staring out.
Yes, he seems just focused on looking out the train.
All right. To which I'll read the top paragraph. I'm going to scoff at what I'm reading.
Okay.
And make it very audible. And at the periphery, do I see him react, or is he in his own little world?
Do a spot hidden.
I will do a spot hidden. 58. That's a pass.
You have the distinct feeling that he is aware of your presence, that he heard the noise you made, but he continues to focus on what he is doing. So you saw maybe the slightest twitch of facial expression when you made a noise.
That's fine, as long as he's not in his own little zone. I am going to kind of put down the manuscript, and I'm going to look over at him. Not put it down, like close it, but just kind of lean it down. And I'm going to look over at him, and I'm going to say, "Excuse me."
And he turns towards you. Yes.
And I say, "You look like a very well-read man." And is that a safe assumption to make?
I have read quite a few books in English. He has actually a British accent, it sounds like.
He has a British accent, okay. I'm going to...
Japanese British, I don't know.
Kind of like
he obviously sounds educated.
Okay. I am going to kind of put my thumb in between the pages, close it, and pass him the manuscript. I'm going to say, do you mind reading the top paragraph and just kind of giving me your thoughts?
I should mention that by this time, other people are coming into the salon.
It's totally fine.
Let's assume that other people are in.
That's fine.
He says, "I beg your pardon."
I'm just wondering if I can get a second pair of eyes on this. I'm an editor, and I kind of turn myself towards him a little bit. I'm an editor from the United States, and it's usually I have with me a writer's assistant, but on here I don't really have one. And usually they're very well read, and they've read quite a bit, and you seem like the only type of person who I would come to in this situation. Everyone else on here.
I'm not sure that I'm that kind of person, but I'll indulge you. And he opens up the book, and he reads it to you. Has good pronunciation. You definitely can hear it, sort of a Japanese accent.
Well, and I say, I don't need you to read it to me. I'm just, I want your thoughts on it.
I'm afraid I don't know anything about the editing business. I'm not exactly sure what to say.
Now, in my opinion, this, and I kind of tap the page, it's terrible. The fact that this was sent to a publishing house and a publisher is actually taking it seriously is kind of an insult to art.
Do a spot hidden for me once again.
I will do a spot hidden for you.
Other people are coming into the salon and sitting down. Did you pass?
I did.
As you are saying what you just said, there's a moment where his attention, you know human psychology, there's a moment where he's not listening to you. It's just sort of going like this over his head, but he's definitely looking past you at somebody who came into the room. And then he turns his attention back towards you. And he says, well, I really couldn't say. And he folds the book back up and hands it back to you.
And I take it. And I kind of took it under my arm. And I say, I say, attention was grabbed elsewhere. And I kind of look to the people in the room. It's
It says, no. If you'll excuse me. And he stands up, and it was very nice chatting with you. And he walks out.
Okay. Who else is in the room?
By this time,
Oh yeah.
As you were having your conversation, what's the book, by the way, that you have? You made something up, or
yeah. It's The Automist. It's a dystopian future that was written by a Chinese immigrant to San Francisco. He's written a book and he sent it into Titan Publishing. And its English is not particularly good. I called it Drek.
Okay. What's the name of the author?
Mei Lin.
Mei Lin.
Melin.
Okay. For a few moments of your conversation, sitting across from you where you had originally sat, Amumu Haddad sits down, and as Nakamura gets up and walks away, Haddad looks over at you and he gives you an oddly big smile, like this, and he says, I have never heard of Mei Lin, but I have read quite a few books as well.
So I'll turn my attention to him, and I say, you have?
Oh, yes. I am a missing page. Where are you?
His name is a whole page?
He says, I am an Egyptian scholar, my friend.
I raise an eyebrow, and I step away from my table, and I'm going to make a move towards his, and I say, really, I heard that you were into the antiques. That's what I heard.
Yes, I do deal in the antiques, but I also do a great deal of research.
Really? And so I sit down at the table. I say, well, your English is it's rather good.
Thank you.
Did you study?
So is yours.
I smile and I say, did you study in England?
In Alexandria.
Oh. I said, well, I don't know if you'll be able to read this, and I tap the manuscript. It's barely understandable, in the most polite way possible.
He takes the book and opens it up and looks at it, and he has a rather funny expression on his face. And he says, yes, whoever wrote this does not have a very good command of the English language. Must be rather difficult. Perhaps, did I hear you say you were an editor? It needs a great deal of editing.
Which is a problem with something like this. You see, because it doesn't have the command of English, I'm going to need to have to sort of pick up the pieces of this. There's not that visual, that commanding visual from the words on the page. It's just it's fragmented. I take the manuscript back to me. I say, if Malin had a better command of English, I think that this could be told very, very, very well. But even the thought that a publisher could accept this manuscript and then hand it off to an editor is simply insulting. The author needs to put more work into it.
It brings up a question I would like to ask you then. My question would be this: if you, as an editor, were to turn this manuscript into something that would be published and be readable, is it really Mei Ling's manuscript any longer, or is it yours? What right does she have to put her name on the book?
Exactly, and that's why
it's the old paradox about the ship. If one has a ship and one replaces a part, and then another part, and then another part, and after a number of years, you've replaced all of the parts on the ship. Is it still the same ship?
And I smile at him and I say, you're right about that. And that's why I really don't think that I should edit this, because while it is insulting that a publisher would hand this to me and say, just fix it, I also feel a little uncomfortable with the fact that they're handing me this and saying, here are all the pieces, now you put it together. It'd be completely different. It would not be the vision of the author. The author's the artist. I'm just there to make sure that it's framed nicely.
Yes, you could say that the outside cover would reflect one thing, while the inside material would be something entirely different.
I lean back in my chair as I contemplate the character that I'm playing, because I'm Eldritch, and Eldritch is good with people. And I lean back in my chair, and I say, so what about you? What kind of antiques do you deal with?
Oh, most of mine are antiquities from Egypt.
That's so.
You've probably seen many things of a similar vein in the British Library.
Oh, yes. Egyptology is quite big in America and England right now. In fact, in America, we're kind of basing an entire architectural period on your culture, and just taking bits and pieces.
You call it Art Deco, yes.
Yes, we're just kind of taking bits and pieces.
Now, you yourself are American.
I chuckle at that.
I believe some of your companions, though, are English, yes?
Well, technically, I'm Russian.
Are you Russian? I see.
I'm not.
In any case, I've always wanted to ask the British when they are planning on returning all of the Egyptian artifacts that they stole from our country.
I smile and I say, well, much like the Turks who tried taking land from Russia, I don't think that they'll be giving it back anytime soon.
Huh. Well, one could argue that the Turks and the Russians are very close together. The British and the Egyptians are not.
Which is sad that they think that they can just come in and take what's theirs. But such is the imperial hegemon that is, or the imperial monolith, really, that is the British Empire right now. So you deal a lot with Egypt. I've actually done some extensive research on. I kind of chuckle and smile. on occultic artifacts from Egypt.
Ah, very good. I also, of course, have a great deal of knowledge about most of the Middle Eastern artifacts.
Oh, so you're familiar with Saudi Arabia and even Jordan.
Yes, yes.
Petra, I say. Petra was found. I'm pretty sure it was found. As I raise an eyebrow, I think Petra was found in 1920, around that time.
I am very interested in the, as you say, the occult, the mythical backgrounds to many of the stories, and much of the lore that goes along with various places. Of course, some of it is real and some of it is made up, but most of it is based on fact. There have been very many strange things. You know, the ideas of magic and the communication with the deities. I mean, most religions that I can think of, spring out of the Middle East.
Well, that's true. I mean, you look at the Jews, you look at the Christians, you look at Islam, you look at Zoroastrianism. They all stem from Mesopotamia,
and they all seem to have, in one way or another, emulated one another. They all have very strong similarities. Even the Egyptians with their multiple gods, and the Abrahamic religions with their single gods.
Oh yes, I mean
they're crossovers.
I mean yes, and you can tell. I mean oh my God. The Epic of Gilgamesh is literally, I mean, the Old Testament is verbatim. At least like the Garden of Eden.
Well, very similar, yes.
Yeah, I mean, because it was all oral in that region, and they just tweaked some differences. They tweaked some things. There was a flood. There was a great garden over here. There was a garden that we stemmed from.
And they are all replete with priests and saints and wizards and sorcerers with power, and this is very common in many of these religions.
So, I can't believe I'm going to make this leap. So tell me, are you familiar with Turkish artifacts?
Somewhat. There's definitely. I mean, I have a smattering of knowledge of everything.
I lean in. Like what I'm about to say is forbidden. And I say, are you familiar with Sedevkar?
Sedevkar was a Turkish sorcerer of some sort. Is that maybe 11th century?
That's correct. And if you're familiar with Sedevkar, then are you familiar with the Sedevkar simulacrum?
That's some sort of a magical suit of armor or statue of some sort. Vaguely.
Well, I've just heard rumors in the underbelly that he exists.
Oh. One always hears these sorts of things, but it's very unlikely.
Oh, so you don't believe that it could exist?
Well, whether it could exist or whether it is simply... I doubt it seriously. Magical suits of armor are not also uncommon in various things. Magical blades that can cut through everything. Even other cultures, such as the Asians, such as the cultures of your friend who left, they have tales of magical blades and suits of armor. That's
common. I understand
probably not true.
So you're in a room with that German fellow,
Mr. Groening. Yes, he's very pleasant, very, very likable sort of fellow.
It's been going about the train that someone saw a Manuela in your room.
Oh, see. We as men should be discreet about such things going on.
Well, that's why it's just you and me. I'm not broadcasting it to the whole room.
We've all noticed that you're with that reporter quite a bit.
Yeah,
I don't think that it's discreet that I would reveal or deny any such thing that's going on.
I'd like to make a persuade roll, with the persuade being I lean in and I say, let me tell you, I'm a man to man. Gatling is an annoyance. He pesters me day and as soon as I told him I was an editor, he's been clinging to me like a parasite does to the intestinal tract.
Well, he does seem rather affable.
He's smart, but annoying. And he's a tabloid author. He's not a real journalist.
All the more reason why I must show some discretion in discussing such things with an acquaintance of his. I have another question for you, however. I've wondered this for a few days, for the last day and a half. I'm rather shy myself in approaching people, but is that Dr. Elizabeth Keith?
Yes, it is Dr. Elizabeth Keith.
I thought so. I've read her book. So she's a very, very intelligent woman.
Yes.
Is she your companion? Longtime companion?
I mean, I laugh and I say, not long-time companion or anything in that sense, but we've been through a lot together.
I see. If it's not too much trouble at some point, I should like very much to meet her.
Well, I think I could actually introduce you.
Oh my!
I give a smile. I say, what about her struck you? Was it about her work?
She's a very interesting source of information. One researcher to another.
She does have a particular view of things.
At this point, unless you have something specific, let's assume that what happens is you introduce him to the group, Dr. Elizabeth, and you have a very intelligent conversation. He obviously isn't Makriot. He can hold his own in a conversation concerning just about any antiquity subject that you could come up with. He is a very good source of information on lore and stuff like that. So those sort of questions, he might actually be able to answer them. The very fact that he knew something about the Sedefkar simulacrum.
So
where was he a month ago?
So all right. So
I'm just thinking that we can get past that so that we
Okay.
don't turn this all into a philosophical conversation.
No, but I thought that was interesting. So we can 100% rule out a Mumu.
Yeah, and possibly utilize his intelligence at some point.
I am going to cross him off of my list. He has been eliminated.
Right about now, all of that took maybe an hour or so. So right about,
And we're all back together now, then, aren't we?
yeah,
With a Mumu in the
With
salon.
a moo-moo.
right about 12:48 p.m., you cross the border into the kingdom of Serbs, Croats, and Slovenes. You are now heading towards Belgrade, but you won't arrive in Belgrade until 6:40, till almost 7 o'clock tonight. You're going to be stopping in a couple of little places along the way for, once again, the border guards to get on and get off and stuff like that. Your next stop is at 2:28 p.m. in the afternoon, a couple hours from now. And I can't pronounce it. It's Nice Srevny Krst. Krst. No vowels in that name. That's just not fair. But it's a short stop, maybe 20 minutes at that spot. So I'd like to skip ahead to that point unless there's something else that you would like to talk to a Mumu or.
Well, I'd quite like to talk to one of the staff, actually.
Okay. You want to talk to just a waiter or the brigand?
Yeah, just a waiter, or
Okay.
a waiter would be good, actually. I'd just like to really find out if anyone has seen La Donna Margarita Delgado at any point.
Actually, everybody's in this room at this point, so she's over there. Yeah, and
is she with anyone else's in anyone else's company?
She's in Margrave's company, but they're not talking. She's looking out the window, and he's not talking to her. They seem to be having problems. They're not fighting, but they're having problems.
At this point, I'm nudged by a large dog. At this point, I'm leaning towards Harrow and her as the two prime suspects. Particularly now, Harrow has been quite sort of arrogant.
Yeah, he tends to try to muscle in on the ladies.
Has he demonstrated that kind of arrogant behaviour since the object, we'll call it, fell from the train?
Yeah, and he's interested in Helena. She's there also. I'd like you to do a spot hidden on Helena.
33 out of 45.
Okay. Well, obviously, when Harlow tries anything with Helena, she rebuffs him. But what you notice with your spot hidden is that although Helena is sitting there with a book in her hand, quietly reading, that she keeps looking around the room like this, her eyes leave the book every once in a while, and you get the distinct feeling that she's not just reading, she's observing what other people on the train are doing, including you guys. If your eyes actually meet her eyes, she smiles pleasantly at you and then goes back to reading her book.
But she seems to be less than just sort of not just interested in what's going on, but actively observing. She's doing it. I mean, you say that when we look back at her, she goes back to her book.
Yeah, if your eyes meet her while she's doing this, I almost use the word scrutinizing.
Does it look like she's trying to do this discreetly?
Yes.
And what is she meant to? Is she meant to be a governess or a translator?
What did you say? She's a. Where is she?
You stop sniffing my shoes. Sorry, that was out of character.
You say that to the waiter.
Yes, stop sniffing my shoes, you filthy brute. What sort of man are you? Get away, get away.
I forget what I said that she was. She was. Oh wait, I have it written down. What the hell? That she's a linguist, a translator.
Translator. You know, I don't want to read too much into this, but typically in this period, translators tended to get picked up quite a lot for spying work. I'm not sure if that applies to women though. I don't know how many women were spies at the time. Well, I think we've established, haven't we, that she isn't Macreant because I was in the room with her when the.
Correct.
That is correct.
So why is she so intent on observing everyone on the train? Perhaps there's more to her than meets the eye, I think.
So, is there anything that you want to do before you get to Niz Srevitkrst, or whatever the name of the place is? How do you pronounce it?
I'd like to make it known as well that Nakamura was kind of doing the same thing. He spotted someone come into the room, and then he up and left.
Well, of course, you must bear in mind there's a great deal of political turmoil in this part of the world at the moment.
Well,
so it seems if countries were to be sending spies or just sort of, well, not necessarily spies, but let's call them unofficial observers into these regions, discreet unofficial observers. That wouldn't be out of character. Although whether they do it in the guise of young women who claim to be translators is another matter entirely. But certainly businessmen would be a perfect cover, wouldn't they?
it would. I also I didn't get a chance to ask him, but Nakamura had a very distinct blend of Japanese and English. He spoke fluently, so he's not all Japanese. He can speak both languages, and he has an English accent blended with his natural Japanese accent.
I wonder if he speaks German. German was a very popular teaching language in Japan.
Well, let's not forget the Sino-Russian conflict. So maybe he knows a little bit of Russian in there too. That'd be an interesting thing to see if because I believe the Sino-Russian conflict was about 2 decades ago. I wonder if it was brought up, oh, he's Russian, there would be some kind of cultural response, so that way we can rule him out.
Well, I think there's certainly some level of intrigue about on this train, isn't there? Several of these people don't appear to be entirely who they first seem to be, which makes it a little more difficult to try and pinpoint who Macreant is. Because I think in a way most of the people on this on this train seem to have their own secrets, don't they? Gatling obviously is going to be furtive because he's a gossip columnist. Harrow appears to be something of an indiscreet womanizer.
Yep.
Elena Constanza and Gronig, I think, may possibly be spies.
What makes you think Groening is a possible spy?
Just purely because he's a businessman. That was my. I meant Nakamura. Sorry.
Oh, Nakamura.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't know much about Groening as well.
No, we don't. That's a good point. We don't know much about Groening or La Donna Delgado.
Well, it seems like talking to these individuals helps us rule them out. So,
And they're all present.
And they're all present right now. It's lunch. So we have lunch and then dinner to get something out of them. So who do we talk to first?
We wait until lunch is over and people have finished eating. And then we start quizzing them. I mean, I'll take the La Donna Margarita Delgado.
Well, as you guys, lunches are somewhat extravagant. Everything is extravagant on the train. So just about the time that you're finishing lunch and people are, drinking their coffee and that they've sort of finished up, the train is actually pulling into this this little place in Serbo-Croatia that I can't pronounce. So a few of them are getting up. Once again, there's a 15-20 minute chance to stretch your legs. And before you can act, Margrave and LaDonna get up, and she leans over and says something to him. And then she sort of collects her things and starts to head for the little stairs going to the platform, and he's right behind her. Okay. They're going to go outside to smoke or something.
Good God. One minute he's knocked back by the other one, and now he's after her. Unless, if she was Makriot, he might be attempting to, in some way, recruit him into some dealing or other.
Well, can I assume
in going out, are they going fully out onto the platform, or are they?
Yes, they're going out, and if you're looking out the window, you see her sort of take his arm, like a woman does, and they walk down the platform, and you're in a heavily wooded area, so they're just casually walking, and they sort of disappear out of your view for a few minutes. And let's say for five or 6 minutes, they're out of your view. And then you see her come back rather stiffly, if you will. And a second later, he's following behind her. And you can see he's sort of doing this. And she goes up to somebody who's there. And there's a conversation with one of the staff and all of like that. And within a couple of minutes, a taxi cab pulls up, whatever that means in that day and age, but a taxi pulls up and she gets in, and he sort of goes to say something into the window, and she slams the door, and the taxi drives off. And you see Margrave, sort of doing this, and he looks angry, but he just sort of storms back to the train, And a second later, he's back in the salon. He goes over and gets himself a stiff drink, and you can see a handprint, from being slapped on his face. And he sits there and he orders something, a whiskey or something, and just knocks it.
And she's gone.
And she's gone. She left in a taxi.
Without her stuff.
She can have it sent.
Does this mean that we can eliminate her? I can cross her off my list.
Now, at the same time, what you notice is Jack Gatling, who saw everything, of course. He's going to saunter up to the bar and see if he can get a little info out of Margrave about what just happened,
Well, I think that may end up in fisticuffs. Well, either Macreat is playing the part of Lord Margrave perfectly, or it's not him. And if the woman has left the train, then I'm tempted to suggest it's not her because she's no longer on the train, and the whole point of being on the train is to get to
London as
London
quickly as
on
possible.
time. Yeah.
All right. So we cross out LaDonna. All right, she's gone. She's been eliminated.
Unless she gets back on the train at some point.
Well, we're leaving in 15 minutes?
Yeah, not even that. Maybe 5 minutes from now.
Yeah. So, top of our list is Lord Margrave, Nakamura, LaDonna has been eliminated, Amumu has been eliminated, Jack is a question mark, because we don't know if he's been eliminated. Elena is a question mark. Luigi has been eliminated, leaving us with Harrow, Groening, and Margrave, Nakamura, and yeah, that's it. Like I said, Matthew and Emanuela, they're a couple. It would be kind of noticeable if one of them was no longer the person you married.
Now, there's also, there's a question, isn't there? Like, we know that, just humor me on this one. We know that Macreat has spent a lot of time in England. He has a shop in Islington. So, given that we hadn't previously spoken to Nakamura, there's not necessarily anything to indicate that the real Nakamura would have been as fluent in English as the Nakamura you met.
That is true.
So I think he definitely still remains a suspect.
Well, hold on. Jack may have talked to him. We can talk to Jack and kind of see if he talked to him. And if he did, he can tell us if he did speak English.
What about Frank and Dr. Dawkins? They've been remarkably quiet recently.
Yeah,
I can't help but wonder if one of them might be Macreat.
I've got question marks by them. Especially now that they're sharing a room together. That seems a little odd.
Meatball sandwich.
Meatball sandwich, all right, we're good.
Well, let's go around the room for a moment. We've got let's see. You have Elena Constanza. She's sitting over there reading and observing. At least that's what you've seen. You see Robert Harlow, who's actually taken the spot across from her, probably in the hopes that he can somehow charm her.
Filthy beast.
Jack Gatling is sitting at the bar with Margrave, and the observation is that you can see Jack occasionally say something to Margrave, and Margrave is at first rather stiff about being talked to by that man. But then, there's a moment when he sort of, you can see in his shoulders that he's sort of like this, And you think for a minute there's going to be fisticuffs, and then you see Jack sort of smile, and then he sort of goes back to where he was sitting. He leaves. Henry and Emanuela, it seems very clear that Emanuela is sitting in such a way that Groening can't look at her and she can't look at him. But Henry Matthew, or her husband, Count Debussy, he might have his eyes on Groening. Maybe he's not dumb about what might be going on. You got Lord Margrave, of course, sitting at the bar. LaDonna's gone, and Kiyoshi Nakamura has left the room. Amumu is actually, I think Amumu is he still sitting with you? Maybe not. Maybe he went back to his seat.
Oh.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, if I imagined this, but when we were in the tower, was there not some mention of a plot involving the someone connected with the royal family?
Yes.
Well, of the potential suspects, the two of those that are remaining now that La Donna Delgado has left, Sir Robert Harrow, a politician, and Lord Michael Margrave, a peer and therefore a member of the House of Lords, would appear to be the two people with easiest access to that section of society once they return. More so Margrave, actually. But...
Well, and it should be noted that it's not necessarily difficult for Margriot to pose as Harrow. He didn't necessarily make his misogyny. He didn't do it subtly. Let's just put it that way. It would be very easy for Margriot to just assume that role. Keith, isn't it common for lords to have very detailed accounts of their genealogical history?
Oh yes, they're obsessed with it.
Okay. Perhaps that is a trip up. If they can just easily name all of their family members, then you probably know that it's not them. But if they have to sit there and think of all the terms and all of these names, maybe that's just some way that we can trip them up. Someone who isn't actually a part of the House of Lords.
Oh yes, it's all very anachronistic with its own language and everything.
You have to have an understanding of the extent of the knowledge that he would have. So perhaps he does know the genealogy of these people. I don't know, or perhaps not. It's worth a try, but I wouldn't completely trust all of that. Like I said, it's good to be a bit paranoid with anything that we do here.
Well, you'd think that if Margriot has spent time in London and his plan is to somehow infiltrate the royal household and get to someone high-ranking, he would have researched that, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I would.
He would have researched that in great depth.
But
he wouldn't have known that these people
on the train
would be on the train.
Exactly. And there's probably hundreds, if not over 1,000 lords and lower royalty.
Perhaps, but think about how much time he has had to plan as well. Again,
well, this is his weak link, isn't it? The train is his weak link. He wasn't planning on having to make a dash on this particular train. So this is the bit where he's flying by the seat of his pants, and he doesn't know. He's just playing it by ear. This is the weak part of his plan. Once he gets to London, he's got everything mapped out. He knows exactly where he's going and what he's doing.
Yeah, let's remember that his.
Why we have to get him on the train.
Let's remember that his ultimate plan of stopping us was to get 2 Turkish guys to stab you on the train, on the platform. It's not like he's meticulously planning this all out.
Well, I think he's a planner, but it doesn't look like he's very good at thinking on his feet.
Yeah,
I mean taking someone's body and then dumping the body off the side of the train isn't a particularly skillful move, is it? It reeks of desperation.
Yeah, and I don't think that he planned to be outed as Emil. I think that that was just a chance thing.
So whoever's identity he's taken on since, I think again that is also a chance. It was just whoever Emil happened to encounter.
So you think I'm giving him too much credit?
No, I think he's definitely planning and working these things out, and he knows a great deal. And also, we don't know the extent of the magic that he's using. If he's using some esoteric means to take on the forms of people, we don't know how much he knows about their memories and their lives when he does that.
True.
So he might know a great deal about them once he's done that. He might have access to their memories or something.
My thing is that I don't think he's omniscient because he wasn't planning on us getting on the train, and now we're on the train.
True, but we don't know if by taking over someone's body, does he take on some of their personality as well? Like, we don't know about that whole entire transference.
Well, we do. When he took over Smide's body, he didn't call Barrows the proper way. If he had taken on all of that knowledge, he would have known to call way.
Well, perhaps, but that's getting into more or less like an intimate interaction with Bellows.
About this time, Elena Constanza finishes whatever she's doing, and she comes up to your table. And she says, Miss Keith, I should like very much to speak to you in private.
Of course, my dear. Well, let us do so immediately. Gentlemen, will you excuse us?
I glare at you, Keith. Give you eye, you know what to do. You're alone.
Don't glare at me. I'm on here. I'm well in.
So could we go back to our room for a moment?
Yes, by all means.
All right.
And I'll follow up with something of a spring in my step, having completely misunderstood her invitation.
I'm
Sorry,
wondering if I should have everybody else take their
trousers off.
Yeah.
Can do.
Just yeah, for a minute, please.
Take your trousers off for a minute and give yourselves a good airing.
Oh, not your trousers, just your earphones. All right. So Elizabeth takes you back to your cabin, and she sort of motions for you to, sit. And she sits next to you and she says, I need to ask you a question. And I need you to trust me and tell me the truth. She says, is there somebody attempting to harm the members of your party?
Yes. We believe there is.
Is it a Turkish man?
On this occasion, yes, it would appear to be so. Are you referring to the incident on the platform with Dr. Dalton?
Yes, yeah.
Yes. We believe it's connected to other events in our travels.
What I'm about to tell you is between us. I think that you could share it with your friends if you want to. But I'm not just a linguist. I am a member of the British Secret Service.
I bloody knew it. I don't say that out loud. Because that would spoil the atmos. Sorry, that's a bit of an outburst.
She says, we have heard a rumor that there is a plan to assassinate the King of England's son from a member of a cult that we have interrogated. They call themselves the Brotherhood of the Skin. And we think that Edward is the target, the eldest son. I had been contacted at our last stop via telegram by Sir Douglas Rutherford from Constantinople, a man you are familiar with.
Yes, indeed.
And I've actually been in Constantinople for the last 2 years undercover, and now we're trying to stop this plot. So if there's anything that I think that we should work together on this. If there's any help that I can be for you.
Well, yes, I did. Did Rutherford tell you much?
He told me of some rather strange things, but it was a telegram, so there wasn't much information. He told me that I could probably trust you.
Well,
Go ahead.
You must understand that we're primarily academics. But on the course of our travels, we came into possession of an artifact, an ancient artifact, which was of great significance to the cult of which you speak.
I see. Well,
as a
I've heard only that he is
pursued by them.
That he is a master of disguise, and we suspect that he's somebody aboard the train, but we haven't been able to identify him. So, do you feel like we can bring your comrades in on this piece of information?
I think we must. I trust all three of them implicitly.
All right. Well, perhaps we should go and retrieve them.
Yes.
So, you guys go. Elena and
so I'll push the fishmonger out, and with the diamond in my hand, I'll make a break for the border.
Okay.
On the motorcycle.
Well, then we don't really need them for the rest of the game.
Okay.
You guys are all relieved.
All right, bye.
I've won the Call of Cthulhu's.
Elena and Dr. Keith return, and they want to also speak with you guys privately and reveal what Elena has revealed. Dr. Hughes was right. Elena is a member of the British Secret Service. And They have reason to believe that there is an assassination plot against the king of the king's son, Edward.
Yeah, you should be worried about that.
And they got this by capturing and interrogating a Brotherhood of the Skin. Sir Douglas Rutherford from Constantinople is in part behind this. So we're going to leave it with the fact that you now have a pretty strong ally on board the train. Okay?
When you say Sir Douglas Rutherford is behind it, you mean behind the plot or behind the discovery?
No, he's the fact that she's a planted spy on the train to see if they can identify who the guy who's going to assassinate the king's son. They believe that it is a Turkish man, and the fact that Dr. Dawkins was attacked by a Turkish man leads them to believe that Makryat, well, they don't know that it's they don't know the name Makryat, but that the culprit is on board the train right now. They just don't know which one he is.
Okay.
So you guys are looking for the same person, it would seem. Okay.
Well, since you questioned this member of the Skinless Code, how much does she know about them and their ways?
Not much, only what was revealed by the interrogation, And
I tell her you need to teach us some of those techniques. We couldn't get a word out of these people.
Well, she didn't do the interrogating. Experts did the interrogating. Once Rutherford was on your side, then things started to go into motion. All right, well, let's leave it there. Our players included Thomas McKeon, Mick Swan, Jeff Wilkins, and Wayne Worthy, with myself as the keeper of the secrets. We're currently producing 4 shows a week with music and sound effects added in post-production in order to create a richer listener experience. We provide audio-only versions of our shows free for you to download from Podbean or iTunes. One of our most recent patrons, Yves La Rochelle, has just increased his contribution from $1 to $3. Thank you so much, Yves.
Thank you.
Merci, Yves.
Merci, yeah. If you'd like to become a patron, please visit our Patreon account. Just $1 or $2 a month helps us a lot. Like, share, and subscribe to our channel for updates on our latest shows, and leave us some comments. We love hearing from you. This is Tom Rayleigh, together with all the members of our gaming club, inviting you to journey with us once again into the darkness for another adventure into the universe of H.P. Lovecraft and the Call of Cthulhu role-playing game. Until next time, good luck and good gaming.